Greetings, programs. Welcome to Chocolate Soup, Dreamland, Japan, where we discuss all things having to do with the land of the rising sun. I'm your host and humble servant, Robbie Reilly, coming to you from our studio here in lovely Kichijoji, Tokyo. I'll have a lot of guests joining us here in the studio and actually out in remote places, cafes and such, and we'll talk about basically whatever we'd like to talk about. But it'll always come back to Japan. It'll always be that fixed star in the sky, that anchor that holds us down in one place as we roam around and explore other ideas. I don't want to say the word expert. We're not experts, but we've got a lot of knowledge, a lot of wisdom, a lot of experiences, 30 plus years of it right here in the land of the rising sun. So we'd like to pass that information on to you and let you benefit from it. For anybody interested in Japan, coming here, if you've been here before and you miss it, or you'd like to make this your next stop on a long journey, or you're thinking of becoming an expat like me, living and working overseas here in Japan. We'll talk about all these things and more. We'll have lots of interesting guests, all different walks of life, all different professions and vocations and vagabondness. But let's get right into it, shall we? Let's start off and talk about an abandoned Air Force station. Do you believe in ghosts? Do you think spirits can linger and hang on long after their living host has departed? Do you believe in curses and hexes and demons? I'm going to tell you a story that takes place in Tokyo, not far from where I am right now. It's a true story. And when I learned it, it changed my life. And when you hear it now, right now, it may change yours as well. In a small town in the middle of western Tokyo, there sits a patch of green. It's not a garden or somebody's yard. It's something quite different and unexpected. It's an abandoned military base, but not just any base. It's the former headquarters of all the United States Pacific Forces. The installation is hard to see. That's because it's covered up by nature, overgrown. Though no one has worked there for years, it is by no means lifeless. Why was it abandoned? And why did the U.S. forces move north away from the area? Some say the base was no longer needed, or not large enough. Others say it's because it is haunted now, and was haunted back when the Americans were stationed there. Some locals have confessed to feeling a strangeness in the area because of U-Day. And this reason, they believe, has something to do with why the Americans relocated, literally leaving equipment in place in some instances. What is the strangeness the locals are referring to? And what is U-Day? The strangeness refers to the very large and very old Japanese cemetery at Fuchu, as well as what appears to be a large ancient burial mound. And U-Day is the Japanese term for spirit or ghost. Fuchu is located in the geographic center of Tokyo Prefecture, about 20 minutes away from the hustle and bustle of the famous downtown megalopolis and the large Takao mountain range to the west. This was the command center not just for Tokyo, but it was the HQ for the entire Far East. And now it's covered in vines and overgrowth, as if nature rose up and tried to pull it back into the earth. The base has no runway, and except for helicopters, no aircraft ever took off or landed from this military station. Fuchu Air Station, as it was officially called, was the origin of USFJ, United States Forces Japan, which included Army, Air Force, Navy, and Marines. And this base was the headquarters and communications hub of U.S. forces from 1957 to 1974. So why did the U.S. military invest so much in the area, then pack up and go north? Could the nearby large Fuchu Cemetery be to blame? Many Japanese believe this may be the case. But it's not just Japanese who think this. In fact, the remains of who is regarded as the first American casualty of World War II is interred there. Robert K. Reischauer, older brother to U.S. Ambassador to Japan, Edwin O. Reischauer, was killed in the bombing of Shanghai in 1937. His remains were brought back to Japan, and he was buried in Fuchu Cemetery. For those interested, his grave and tombstone are also covered by vines and overgrowth. Japanese are very superstitious when it comes to tradition, ceremony, and yes, even ghostly spirits. Protocol, what should be done and what should not be done, to keep away the evil spirits and to welcome in the good ones. Japan's native religion, Shinto, teaches that all things, everything and everyone, has a spirit. When a structure is to be built, especially a home, a ceremony is performed to cleanse the property, bless it, and protect those who enter and reside there. A Shinto priest is brought in to perform this ceremony. Offerings are made, prayers recited, and a feast ensues. Well, the U.S. headquarters in Fuchu, like many other U.S. installations in Japan, most likely never had a ritual ceremony performed when it was first constructed. And if that didn't anger the Yude, the following rumor, if true, most certainly would. Because there is evidence that a small neighborhood cemetery, yeah, you knew this was coming, had to be dug up and moved to another location to make way for the military base. How many times have we heard this happening? Japanese are cremated, of course, but their ashes are interred at the family plot in the cemetery. In Japan, where real estate is at a premium, there's an intersection in Ginza that was more expensive than the entire province of Manitoba, Canada at one point. Cemeteries are never moved or disturbed, even with this high premium of real estate. In fact, in a country where gardening and pruning of bushes and trees could be considered an obsession, cemetery nature is generally left alone to grow naturally. Because spirits dwell in those trees and bushes, and spirits in cemeteries especially are not to be disturbed. It is for either or both of these reasons that some locals say the area is cursed and needs to be cleansed, blessed, and returned back to nature. The nature part has already happened right on schedule, as I've described. However, recent developments have been ongoing and the area is being cleared for development. So eventually the entire area known as Fuchu Air Station will no longer exist. But for now, it's still there. In all likelihood, apartment buildings and condominiums will be built there. It will be interesting to see if any of the new inhabitants on this property experience anything unusual, frightening, or worse. Some other interesting points of the area. Firstly, is the famous Fuchu prison, where a young man is serving time. He's no longer that young. He was found guilty of severing the head of his victim, a small boy, and placing it on the front gate of the victim's elementary school. The prison also housed, or continues to house, members of the notorious Aum Shinrikyo cult, including the group's leader, Shoko Asahara, who was executed. The cult used sarin gas, you may remember, to terrorize a subway in Tokyo, killing 12 and injuring hundreds of others. This was back in 1995. I was here for that. I remember that. Also, within close proximity to the abandoned air station is a small airport, which also had a fatal crash of a Piper PA-46 small aircraft, which directly after takeoff suddenly dove and crashed into a home, killing the woman inside as well as the pilot and passenger of the aircraft. It set the house on fire and adjacent houses. This small airport was also the last line of defense many, many years earlier for Tokyo during World War II. Artillery batteries lined the hillside, and the low-profile airplane hangars hid small fighter aircraft from American bombers. Some of these hangars, not the aircraft, but some of these hangars are still there. I've been to 3 of them in the area. Across from the airport is a research center for JAXA, the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, Japan's equivalent of NASA. They also maintain several aircraft and helicopters, including a very old Russian helicopter. Also in the local area is the campus of International Christian University, ICU, which during World War II had been a military training camp for kamikaze pilots. The main tree-lined drive of the university is noted for the lovely cherry blossoms each spring. It's a beautiful, beautiful boulevard. This was the runway for those kamikaze planes to take off from, never to return. On the other side of Fuchu site, the abandoned military site we're talking about, are both the Metropolitan and National Police Academies. And just beyond is Tama Hills, where munitions were manufactured and stored during World War II. It was also an area that was bombed. The National Astronomical Observatory of Japan is located here as well. This is all in the same area. Many old scientific buildings dating back to the late 19th and early 20th century are still standing here. On the campus are several historic observatories measuring sun activity and magnetic anomalies. In addition to the above points of interest, there are several archaeological sites in the immediate area and foothills where the remains of prehistoric humans were discovered, including burial sites and cave dwellings. Now, on the Fuchu Air Station site, there still remains 3 very large aerials, as my dad used to say, the aerial. 2 of them are parabolic dish antennas, gigantic round dish antennas, and one is a tower. I'm not sure exactly how tall the tower is, but it's quite tall. And you can see all 3 of these from very far away. As long as you've got a line of sight, you can see these things. The 2 parabolic antennas are completely rusted. They're just brownish, reddish hulks. The tall tower, however, is still maintained and still functioning and still purposed. And the reason I bring that up is because I want to put a warning out there to folks who are in the area, who come here and are looking around and maybe hear this podcast or maybe see some images online and would love to go exploring in there into these abandoned places, which is very popular hobby. But I'm warning you right here and right now, do not risk trespassing into the Fuchu Air Station perimeter. It's clearly marked. In order to get in, you'll have to climb a fence or hop over a chain, which has warnings on it in English and in Japanese. But I'm warning you, do not do that. Do not trespass into the perimeter. Violators are prosecuted, punishable by deportation for foreign nationals and prison sentences for Japanese. You have anything like that, you will be deported. Right, so this is serious. If you're on a tourist visa, if you're coming through, you will be sent to the airport. You will be put on the next flight to wherever you need to go, and you will be blacklisted. You will not be able to return to Japan. So think twice about climbing that fence. Okay? Also, another reason not to do that, and especially not to climb the tower, which is very inviting, I know, for a lot of people. Do not climb the antenna array or towers. They're extremely dangerous. simply physically dangerous, but the tower is no longer dormant. It is currently being leased out as a cell service tower, 5G, and emits microwave radiation. You risk suffering internal burns and death if in close proximity while the emitter is functioning. Stay clear. Okay, there's my disclaimer. So I wipe my hands of any responsibility. If you choose to ignore these warnings, you do so at your own peril. Anyway, that's the story of the Fuchu Air Station. Is it haunted or not? What do you think? What do you think? Let us know. Tell me your thoughts. It's a very interesting site. It's a very rich culture, rich history of the area, cultural history of the area, and also of the base itself. So there's lots more going on here that I haven't talked about that maybe you know about or you would like to learn about. So I'll leave that to you. But the area will be developed, and eventually, probably fairly soon, there will no longer be any more structures there. The fence will be torn down, and it'll be just another area where there are apartment buildings and other structures, and it will no longer have any connection to the once great United States Forces headquarters, Far East. There are many veterans, Air Force veterans and other military branch veterans that were stationed at Fuchu over the years, including several other bases in the area, including Tama and Tachikawa, to name a few. And many lived right on the base. There was base housing there. Many lived nearby in the areas of Kogane, or Fuchu, or Tama, or Kudaira. Lots of areas lots of nice areas around the base, suburban, semi-rural farms and wooded areas. So it's a lovely area. It's not, smack dab in the middle of the metropolis. This is really the center of the Tokyo prefecture, Tokyo-to. If you were to look at the map and you were to stick a thumbtack right in the direct center of Tokyo prefecture, right, and spin it like a pinwheel, where you put that tack, right? So that's where I'm talking about, right there in the middle. So where you see Shibuya, Shinjuku, all the huge buildings and neon and crossings and scramble crossings and all that, that's all to the east. That's all to the east. So once you get past half an hour or so outside of the city, you start to get into areas like this, like Fuchu, like Kogane, like Kichijoji, even where I'm at. So it's quite different texture, different tapestry of Japan. But I highly recommend people don't just stay in the cities. They get out there and experience all that Japan has to offer. You've heard it all before, you know. I don't need to tell you that. So I thought I would just pass on that little tale there that was once part of the Art Bell program as we inaugurate this new podcast on Japan, and hope you tune in for the next one. We're looking to get some guests in very soon. An animator, an American guy who worked on MTV and Netflix and is currently working on a very exciting project involving gaming and animation and short films. So we're going to get him in pretty soon, American guy, and a few others that are already lined up, and I'm just itching at the mic to get them in here for an interview or go to where they're at. So we'll do, have Mike, we'll travel. We're ready to go. We've got people who've been here for many years. We've got people who just got here. Their impressions of just arriving and what they're experiencing right now. These first time experiences that for me were long ago, but for you out there who are tuning in, maybe this is what you want to hear about. You want to hear what's the best way to do this? Where can I get an apartment? Where can I get a job? How do I do this? How do I get a hanko? How do I get my own stamp? Can I get my name written in Japanese? And can I get an official stamp that I use on my documents? All these kinds of questions we're going to talk about. We're going to answer, and we're going to discuss, and hopefully in an entertaining way. We'll work on that. I know we got a lot of work to do. It's a work in progress. Give me a break. But anyway, if you want to look at pictures or images of the Fuchu base before and after, back in the heyday as well as today, what it looks like today, You can just type in, Fuchu Air Station, Tokyo, Japan, abandoned Air Force Base, something like that. You may come across the articles I've written. You may come across a lot of other very, very well taken photographs. There's been some very highly regarded professional photographers who've gone into the site, quote unquote, illegally, I must add, and taken pictures from inside the buildings, which are remarkable photos. Very, very scary looking, right out of a horror movie, including the panels of electronics that are still there, huge transformers and generators and all sorts of gear with gears and sprockets and meters and instruments and switches and all sorts of cool stuff on them. Still there. So you got to wonder, why wasn't this stuff taken? But I'm sure there was a reason, right? I'm sure. Oh, it looks like we've come to the end of the program today. It was great having you with us. We had so much fun together, didn't we? I look forward to our next time, and stay safe out there. This is Rob Reilly, your host and humble servant, signing off from Tokyo. Ciao, ciao.